On today's episode, I'm bringing in a startup software company who has pivoted their content marketing strategy from the typical high funnel SEO type content like the what is and the how to. And now they're spending way more resources on thought leadership topics. So we'll unpack why they made this change, what types of thought leadership content are they gravitating towards, and what other types of content are successful for them today. Let's do this.
Welcome to Content Marketing Engineered, your source for building trust and generating demand with technical content. Here is your host, Wendy Covey.
Hi, and welcome to Content Marketing Engineered. On each episode, I'll break down an industry trend, challenge, or best practice in reaching technical audiences. You'll meet colleagues, friends, and clients of mine who will stop by to share their stories. And I hope that you leave each episode feeling inspired and ready to take action. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a brief shout out to my agency, True Marketing. True is a full service agency located in beautiful Austin, Texas, serving highly technical companies. For more information, visit truemarketing.com. And now on with our podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Content Marketing Engineered. I'm joined today by Sooraj Shah. He's the content marketing lead at Aikido Security. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, nice to have you on the show today. Thank you for stopping by. I wanted to start with just giving the listeners a little context about you. And so tell me a little bit about your career journey and what led you to the role that you have today.
Yeah, so my background is as a kind of B2B journalist in the technology field. Predominantly writing initially for a lot of the trade media and then expanding that to more mainstream publications because business tech was getting more exposure overall, I guess. Yeah, freelancing for a number of publications and then eventually working for startups. So a lot of the time when I was freelancing, I had a kind of commercial side as well, where I was writing for many of the big tech companies and startups. And one of those clients was a startup, and that's kind of how I ended up moving into this space, into the marketing world. And yeah, that's led me to here at Aikido as content marketing lead.
Okay, so now you're brand side, full-time, a little bit of a different dynamic, huh?
Yeah, kind of on the other side, I guess, because I'm now doing, managing PR as well, which is something, as a journalist, obviously you always kind of liaising with PR agencies and PR kind of internal media relations.
And I bet that's fun because you somewhat have an inside track as to what journalists are looking for, editors on the trade pub side, how to pitch to them because you've been in their shoes. So I definitely want to circle back to that and get your advice for those of us in the pitching seat. Yeah, but before we do, I really want to learn more about how you approach content marketing, what some of your priorities are today, and perhaps do they look any different than a few years ago? Because of course now we're in this large language model world and generative search and all of that fun stuff. So what are you guys up to?
Yeah, I guess we're doing a number of things. I don't think with content marketing now you can kind of go down any one particular path. Obviously, when I joined here, there was a big aim to make sure that we were easily found, easily known, and that kind of requires that SEO approach, that technical SEO approach, and obviously that's expanded because of the GEO or LLM side to mean a lot more. But we're also doing a lot on the kind of PR side, and I guess one of the biggest transitions we've had is moving towards more thought leadership. So a lot of our articles prior had been focused on kind of general, informational articles, a lot of commercial articles, a lot of kind of obvious maybe articles without a real opinion or stance. And that's something we're now switching. So it's very much more journalistic, more like a newsroom, more like a media house. And obviously, as a previous journalist, that's something I enjoy and prefer, quite frankly. So it's also kind of helps us to be distinct compared to our competitors, compared to others in the industry. So yeah, that's the big shift for us.
How do you make sure that your messages are unique and differentiated? What kind of process do you use?
It depends on the topic, the piece, but a lot of the time we have an opinion based on, obviously there's an element of what our product does, and where, how it works, and how that differentiates itself from others, which plays a big part. But the other part is kind of maybe we can say things that others are not saying, or others are not, maybe are more afraid to say and be more outspoken about, because we have a strong view about something. So for example, if we find something is maybe ridiculous or doesn't need securing, and everyone's talking about it on Twitter or wherever else, perhaps we'll actually come out and say that, rather than saying, having the usual line of, this is how you secure X, because everyone's trying to search for a solution for that. We've kind of opposed that's kind of the SEO play there. We're actually doing the thought leadership play, which is, you don't even need to secure that because it doesn't make any sense. So that's just one example, but
I
it's
see.
taking a strong stance.
So taking a contrarian view in some cases in order to stand out of, look, but no, forget what they're saying over there. We have the expertise and here's why, and here are the proof points. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. As long as we have
Mhm.
evidence to say that, and we're not just trying to be contrarian just for the sake of having an opposing view.
Okay, fair.
We want to be able to back that up, and we actually want to believe that internally ourselves as well.
Yeah, I know before we hit the record button, you had mentioned with some disdain about companies that are too clickbaity, or that Google is a little bit oriented towards liking the clickbaity stuff. Could you tell me more about that?
Yeah, I think, for years the SEO model, and what marketing teams have been geared towards with content, is, how do we get seen on Google? How do we rank? Which is fine, and it's definitely one method, and it's why SEO is important. Um, what we're finding more important with the introduction of LLMs as well, is hopefully kind of going back to some of that high quality content which we see from independent media, so from third parties, and from ourselves internally in our blog. So where it's not all about structuring your article in a specific way, or having what is X, and kind of having the same boring article after article as our competitors. Is actually about, how do you have a differential view, but also maybe you have different data points, maybe you have um, a completely different kind of topic altogether. So it's kind of doing things differently, so that an LLM, when someone might search on an LLM, they may find you for a completely specific reason, because they're searching for something so specific, which
Mhm.
they may not have been using Google for. Those kind of long tail queries that Google isn't used for.
I know. And what I love about that is, back in the day when we were doing search optimization in a technical industry, you're already chasing a lot of the long tail. So now it's like the whole world is long tail when they're using large language models. So it feeds right in, I think, to a lot of niche companies, solving specific applications. So I like where we're at, although it's of course difficult to measure. So we'll get into that. But before we do, I'm curious to hear. So now that you've made this shift to spend more resources in thought leadership topics and perhaps a little bit contrarian here and there, and you mentioned you've moved away, or maybe not moved away, but your focus is less on the what is or the how to type of content. So do you just have you killed some of that content on your website? Is it evergreen? Do you spend any time on it? Tell me about that shift.
Yeah, actually, what we're doing is trying to do a bit of both, where we can keep that content going. We've actually hired someone to kind of specifically focus on that type of content and work with our technical SEO expert that we have in-house. And we would kind of have someone focus on that while some of the rest of the content team focus purely on the thought leadership, or more so on the thought leadership. So it's definitely still a key, avenue for us, because it's not just important for Google. It is still important for the LLMs. LLMs do, by the looks of it, seem to pick up things from Google's top ranking page. So it's still important, and we have to focus on that while we can focus on the other priority of thought leadership. So it's a balance.
Okay. All right. How important is it to show up in industry publications versus publishing on your own website, in your opinion?
I think it's incredibly important. Kind of back on what we were talking about with the LLMs, I think it's becoming more important to have those third-party sources. LLMs seem like they don't rely on kind of blog post articles or kind of contents that's housed on vendor sites as much, especially when it comes to, say, research reports or data driven reports. They would rather use a combination of sources as well. So to get credible, domain authority type sources to write about you and your company is a big deal. But it's not just for the LLM side, right? It's still some of those sites that are still around. They're obviously less of them now, but there's clearly an audience that is relevant to us that still reads these publications. So it's still important to be in front of them as much as we can, and kind of get our brand out there.
Okay. So annual research is something that you do. And you just mentioned research being one of the things that large language models enjoy. So tell me, is that why you started it? How long have you been doing it? How's it going?
Yeah, no, actually, it's something I did in my previous role as well, and it's something that we spent a lot of time on last year. Something I led last year for one of our big reports, and yeah, it's the LLM side is probably just one small factor of that. I think the biggest factor was it's something that credible that you can hang your hat on in so many different ways. So it feeds into all of our SEO pieces because all of them then have a data point which is backed by an actual research. So if you're actually explaining a point rather than just explaining it, you can actually say this is proven by X amount of people saying X. Then the actual report we ended up printing out for kind of the field marketing side, in a kind of a nice kind of booklet for our dinners with our senior execs that we're having, that would be given for many of our presentations at events. It would, data points would be referenced there. And then you had the fact that we had influencers being quoted in that research as well, and then resharing that research to their networks. All of those things really kind of help fuel a big amount of attention on us, and the key thing is it establishes us as a player, as a thought leader in this space. So that kind of fits a lot of different boxes.
It's not exactly a small lift doing research too, right? We have to mention that. Were you able to use your own database to source the people that you surveyed?
So we actually use the third party. So they do the actual kind of, they go off and do the research on their side. They get the right types of people that we've kind of requested them to survey. But from our side, we put together the questions, we put together the kind of not just the responses, but I guess the narrative and the way of displaying those responses. And of course, those echo kind of our overall messaging, our overall product as well. So and the kind of company strategy. So a lot feeds into the actual content, the final content that goes in, and it looks very different from the initial responses that we get back from this third party research company.
Yeah, great. That sounds like a good collaboration so that you can focus on what you're best at, what you need to get out of it, the type of information you want to know, and then, of course, marketing the report itself and using it. Good. Well, how do you measure the success of content marketing at your company? Is that an easy lift, hard lift? Do you have tools that you use to help with this?
Yeah, and I guess because we're shifting that focus as well, we've had to rethink how we measure success because success for thought leadership is looks very different to success in an SEO piece, for example.
Mhm.
Both of which you can look at the standard types of sources or metrics, some of which are more vanity metrics like traffic or things like that. But the fundamental difference is I think SEO can be more easily tracked to say lead generation or pieces that are influencing buyers, whereas thought leadership, you can look at that, but that will be just one small factor. You have to kind of look at are people sharing your piece within your industry? Are people quoting you? Are publications even quoting you, which we've seen a few times now? And how long are people spending on the page, and are they then going on to another blog that you're writing, or another piece? So yeah, we're kind of switching the focus for depending on the type of article or blog that we're writing.
Yeah. Now, when it is touch more difficult to measure the thought leadership side, and I think you gave some good proxies, oftentimes it takes a leader within the company that gets it, gets the importance in their gut, if you will. And I find that with technical leaders, it's a bit harder, right? Because they want hard data, right? Engineers, software, whether it be software, hardware, whatever, they like hard data.
Mm.
So, did you have any issues with this pivot, or is your executive team on board?
No, actually, the main call to actually switch our focus, a lot of it has come from our kind of senior leadership.
Great.
Even though, our CEO slash CTO is a developer at heart, I think he wants us to have a stance on things. But saying that, that doesn't mean as a content team, it's easy to still quantify the success.
Yeah.
So while the strategy may have shifted and while we're doing a bit of, we're kind of playing both fields of SEO and thought leadership, it doesn't make it easier as an individual or as a team to say this is successful, put all of these pieces together in one bucket and say this is a success story. I guess it always a difficulty, right? Attribution, and measuring success in content has forever been a big issue. So
Especially now with the long tail of LLM queries, you can't know what queries are trending. That's just not a
yeah,
thing right now, and perhaps it will be one of these days. We'll find a way, but yeah.
yeah, it's something we get from time to time. We get a question in a Slack channel like, why are we not coming up as a response in this prompt? And it's kind of like, well, someone else may use the exact same prompt and actually get us as an answer, and that's how complex LLMs are, and how much we still don't understand enough about them to kind of measure their success. Even if you use tools like Peak AI or various other tools, there's a limitation on how much we actually know compared to, say, the SEO tools out there, which are far more kind of, yes, this is causing X, and this is where you rank, etc. So yeah, we're kind of in a difficult spot right now where we don't know sure how successful we are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the fun of being in content marketing. Well, before we sign off here, do you have any parting advice to those listening that are wanting to lean more into thought leadership?
I think having an opinion is definitely really important, but also third party research is kind of difficult to do well because it's many of your competitors may be doing it, and it seems like everyone's got a state of report saying something nowadays. So to stand out there and to actually make your audience pay attention is really difficult. But if you kind of start with that kind of thought leadership angle from the very beginning, when you even ask those questions as in your survey, I think you land yourself in a place where you can actually generate better PR from it. You can generate a better blogs from it and better SEO content from it. So if you kind of think from the very start, what do I actually want to gain from this research, and how can we position ourselves best? I think that can kind of be your strongest thought leadership.
Yeah. And I know with ours is called the State of Marketing to Engineers, and we just published our ninth edition. And what I've learned through all of that too is, we started it in part so that we could better understand the audiences that our clients are serving. So if our clients are reaching, say, a design engineer, we want to make sure that, yes, we have our own experience and we know how to reach them, but let's validate that with data. And that's been tremendously helpful. And so it's coming from a very authentic place when we're promoting the research and talking about the findings. It's not just, hey, let's see if we can get people to our website, but it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this new finding. Everybody needs to know about this. Let's start a dialogue. And I think when you come at it from that really authentic angle, it just, it does
Yeah,
great things. So,
yeah, definitely. I think a lot of the questions we ask are things that people want to know, like the answers
mm-hmm.
to, and I think that's the big difference. Yes, the end result for us is all of these other things that it feeds into, but
Yeah,
we're asking questions that other people in our target audience
they
want to
truly want to
know the
know.
answers to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I totally forgot. Okay, one more last question. Circling back to your time as working with industry press, any tips on how to develop relation, or should we develop relationships with editors and writers? And if so, how do you come about that? Just advice for if this publication is like the most, maybe there's one or two publications that are these are the most important for my company. So out of everybody, I know I'm going to always pitch to them. So how do I increase my success rate?
Yeah, I think initially it's always having firstly not just sending them everything. I think some of these things, most PR professionals know the ins and outs of them. But what has worked for me at least has been interacting with them in kind of very short kind of messages, and just showing them something of interest at first. So it could be a state of report, for example, in the first instance,
Mhm.
which is a good way to get in, because then you're buying that credibility straight away. And then maybe the fact that I have had I've written for some of the publications helps as well. But
Sure. Little
but
inside track there. I see. I
yeah, yeah.
see.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some of the journalists I do know, etc. But I think I think a lot of it is the same as it's always been, where it's yeah, you can build rapport, and I think your company over time builds credibility by sending the right things. For example, our security research team has significant findings, which play a big part in our kind of PR. So that's one track, one side of things, and yeah, a lot of the other things we're doing are trying to kind of increase our visibility on our thought leadership side as well now. So um, yeah, I think over time journalists can kind of tell when
Um,
you're the right kind of person who's sending the right kinds of things, and not just spamming them with
Not just
a
spamming them with
constant
everything. I think that
yes,
right there is just golden advice. Really tailor it to things they're going to be interested in. Yeah.
yes.
Don't waste their time. Good. Well, where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about Aikido Security?
Yeah, I guess the best place is LinkedIn, but I'm also on Twitter or X. So yeah, those are the places to find me.
All right. And the research reports on your website, right?
Yeah, the state of AI in security and development, quite a mouthful, is on our website, and we're going to be launching another report very soon, which is on a slightly different topic.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks for coming on the show today.
Great, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining me today on Content Marketing Engineered. For show notes, including links to resources, visit truemarketing.com/podcast. While there, you can subscribe to our blog and our newsletter and order a copy of my book, Content Marketing Engineered. Also, I would love your reviews on this podcast. So please, when you get a chance, subscribe and leave me your review on your favorite podcast subscription platform. Thanks and have a great day.